Welcome to the Dice Gods. My name is Hydra, and today's video is a follow-up from one we did a couple of weeks ago about the truth of starting a wargaming community. The feedback from that was awesome. We had quite a lot of comments and quite a lot of discussions started in various places, which was really great. But one bit of feedback that we received, especially from Nick Breyer 884, was that it would be useful to have a discussion around actually running a demo. A gaming demo. Getting people into the game requires, or any game, requires demonstrating that game, introducing people to it and showing off. So today we are going to look at what I think is important, what I don't think is important about demonstrating a war game to a potential new player. Now, although I am going to speak about the specifics of Infinity with some caveats, this does apply to pretty much every war game that is out there. In fact, most games that are out there, to be honest with you, because it boils down to a lot of very simple ideas, a lot of key ideas, and you can apply them wherever. So if you are looking to start demoing a game, whether it's Infinity or something else, this video may well help. And we're looking again for another wonderful conversation. If you have any thoughts or any ideas or any things that you do that work, put them in the comments. Let's chat about it. Let's help each other to promote our games. This is especially important with the fact that we've just had Warcrow drop, and we're just about to get Infinity N5 drop. Now that does mean that what I'm going to be talking about with Infinity here is going to be a little bit more vague than it would have been 2 months ago. There will be a proper how to demo N5 video at some point, but before I can do that, I need to have my hands on N5 and have demoed it. It's one of those things. So for myself, let's talk about where I'm coming from on this. I've been demoing Infinity for about 10 years now. Yeah, well over 100 players have been got into the game by me, so apologies to all of those and all of their spouses. On top of that, I've demoed Drop Zone Commander, Drop Fleet, I think Malifaux once, which for a rookie is impressive. Gates of Antares, if you've ever heard of that one. Age of Sigmar, 40k I think we did a couple of times too at some point in history. Some various systems. And when I started out, I was rubbish. I was. There's no two ways about it. I was trash. And most people are. And we're going to talk about why, and we're going to talk about how we can change that, and we're going to talk about the things to look out for. So let's get into that. Right. First of all, there are two different types of demo that you can do. One is a demo and one is an intro. Now, after this point, there'll be very few distinctions, but I hope you can catch the difference. A demo is something that you would do at, say, a local gaming store if they're having a demo day, or at a convention or a show. Like the start of September, I'm going to Crisis in Belgium, courtesy of our friends at CCG Winkle, and I will be there with another buddy, and we'll be demoing Infinity, and we'll be demoing Warcrow, and we will be demoing Rem Racers. Actually, that will be there too. So all three of those will be there, and we'll spend the whole day demoing. Now, a demo needs to be short. It needs to be punchy. It needs to be to the point. 30 minutes is kind of the sweet spot you're aiming for there, because people are there for other things. They're not just there to see whatever you're showing off, or they may be there to see that and other things. So what you want to do is have them in, give them that intro to the game, and then send them off. Or give them that demonstration of the game. An intro game is the opposite. It is, right, I'm going to run you through the start of the very basics of how this game works, because you want to learn it, because you want to play it. So let's start game zero. Here we go. Here's the basics. These are the rules. These are very different things. With a demo, you are purely selling the sizzle. You're selling the excitement, the hype, the interest. That's what you want. You want people to be hyped. With the intro game, you're selling the sausage. You are selling them the thing. This is the actual thing, and we're going to start going into the guts and the gory, bloody bits that you need to know to play this game. That's all coming out now. They are very different things, and that comes to the first point that you need to figure out when you are doing this type of demo. We're going to call them more demos now for the purposes of ease. What your objective is. What are you hoping to do with this demo that you're doing? Are you hoping to get somebody who's never seen the game, show it to them, get them excited and get them looking into it, or maybe get them coming back for an actual intro hands-on learning the game? Or are they already invested, they're already on board, and what they need to do is start learning the games? Those are two very distinct and different objectives. And you need to have that in mind before you start. Because if you're doing a demo where you're just doing that sizzle, where you're just doing the hype, speaking about Infinity, hacking doesn't matter. The fact that it's there is cool, but you're not going to go through it. We don't need to talk about impersonation. We don't need to go into the details and the guts and all the gory bits of the rule book. What we need to do is go, hey, look, he just shot you. You know what you can do? Shoot back. Here's a big guy with a huge gun in powered armor. Isn't he awesome? Shoot that guy with him. He's going to explode. This is what we need to be doing in the demo, whereas in the intro, you need to go, right, this is an order. An order is used for this. These are your options of things you can do with that order. It's much more focused on the mechanics. It's much more focused on building a foundation for learning the rest of the rule, whereas the demo is very much like, yay, toy soldiers. So you need to have that idea in mind before you decide to do a demo, which way you're going, what you're hoping to achieve, what you want people to walk away with from that. When I'm running a demo, I want them to walk away with a sensation of, yeah, cool, and I need more of that. That's what I want them to have. I want them to go home and that be the thing they remember. You know what? I went to that thing and we had all these demos, but you know what I did have? Infinity. Have you ever heard of it? That's what I want them to have. For an intro, what I want them to do is to go home and not to be able to stop thinking about the intro they just had. Oh, I did this and then this happened and then this bit was so cool. And do you know what? I think if I did this differently, then what could happen is that is where we want them to be when they've got that intro. That really focused on the game, focused on what they did. They're focused on the rules that they learned. Ideally, they're thinking about, okay, so I did this. And it's amazing how often that is the case. So we have our idea in mind. The next thing to remember, actually with both, is that you have 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth. Yes, you are going to do a lot of talking. You are going to talk around the rules. You're going to talk about what they need to do, how they can do it, and all this kind of stuff. There are going to be questions and answers, but you need to be more than that, watching the player that you're with and listening to them, listening for what they are engaging with, what's important to them, what matters to them, what makes them go, oh, and what makes them go, oh. Those are very different reactions, and when you are comfortable with the demos or the intros that you give, it becomes a lot easier. So repetition is kind of key with getting this right. But you have to bear in mind that to be successful at these demos, you don't matter. It doesn't matter what you enjoy about the game. They ask you, you tell them, but for the most part, it doesn't matter what you enjoy about the game. It doesn't matter what is cool, what is awesome to you, which is the best faction for you, what you enjoy the most. What matters is how they feel about it, what they think was important to them. You will have people that come up to you with Infinity that are there for the miniatures. Talk about the miniatures. They'll be the ones that will pick up the miniatures and they'll look at them and they'll be holding on to them and they'll ask you questions about how you painted it and the material and all this kind of stuff. Be clear. Focus on that. Infinity, incredible standard of painting. There are some incredible artists that are involved. These miniatures, they are plastic, they are metal. Most of them are metal, but an increasing number of the large ones are now thermoplastic. The old thermoplastic's not so great, the new thermoplastic's awesome. Be honest, be clear. These people are looking at investing their hard-earned cash and their time in a system that you love. Tell them warts and all, quickly, concisely, what they need to know. If they come to you and they're interested in the game, what type of game do you like? Ask them. What are you here for? Do you want tournaments? Do you want narrative? Do you want fluff? What do you want? Tell me. Games like Infinity can do all of that. That's not really a massive problem. There are other systems that you'll come across where, like Malifaux, I wouldn't necessarily say that Malifaux is a very fluffy game. There is too many layers inside of that system. There are too many connective bits that join together with it, rules, within cards, within factions, within keywords. That means that if you want something to pick up on a Friday night and, well, flip cards in the case of Malifaux, Mali isn't it. You need to put some time in, you need to put some energy into it, and if you don't have that, if you just want a beer and pretzel Friday night game, probably not that. Sorry, that's where we are. So listen to what they say, look at what engages them, look at what draws them in. Ask them questions, encourage them to tell you, and then focus on that bit, focus on expanding on that. If they're a competitive player, talk about your experiences with competitive play. And if you don't play competitive, they play the opposite to you. Say that, and then say what you know of the community. So with Infinity, we have the ITS system, there's a global ranking system for players, there are regional games, there is the Interplanetario, where you can go and play in Spain with the guys from Infinity present, and yeah, all of this stuff. Listen for that as you're doing the demo, ask the questions, and then listen to what they say. Don't just have your head down and be like, you spend an order by doing this, this is what they think and what they feel matters more than what you do. That is especially true in the most difficult of all demos that you will give, and that is to a friend. The worst one is to your best friend. These are the ones that you will screw up the mightiest. They are the ones that will go wrong the worst, and that is because you are emotionally invested. Not only do you have the peer group pressure thing, you have the fact that you want them to play with you, and you also want them to like what you like. These are natural instincts, and that is when you will go completely nuts and overboard and do it completely wrong. That is when 2 ears, 2 eyes, 1 mouth is really, really important. Listen to your friends, you know them, ask them questions, look at how they're interacting, and if they're just like, be clear, that's fine. Stop wasting everybody's time. If it's not going to work, if it's not for them, that's cool. That doesn't invalidate your enjoyment, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad system. The same with complete random strangers. If they're like, this is rubbish, okay, it's not for you. There's no problem. You have a great day. Thank you for your time. Don't get into a gunfight about it. Don't get into an argument about it, because it's subjective. You're arguing about toy soldiers. Yes, you're there to do a thing, and they've wasted some of your time potentially, but that doesn't matter. They're entitled to think that it's rubbish. That's okay. They can be wrong. You could be wrong. They're wrong in this instance if they're talking about Infinite. No, not helpful. You know what I mean. So keep yourself out of it. Take your emotions out of it. And that goes as well, you know, when you start a demo, or if you start an intro, it's always best to start with what the game is. So when we look at Infinity, we're talking about a skirmish level sci-fi wargame. Then break it down. Skirmish level, 10 to 20 miniatures, not 15. I know you're going 15 at the screen. I know we have a trooper limit of 15. That doesn't mean say there's 15 miniatures. We have peripherals. We have all the different proxies for Aleph. We have 101 different tin bots. We have 101 different ways of getting above 15. So don't at me about 15. 10 to 20 miniatures. We have sci-fi, set in the reasonably distant future for humanity. Yes, it's this sort of universe, but it's alternate, and we have that cyberpunk feel, and we have that Asian animation feel, and we have all these other influences in there. What does that mean? How does that fit together? It's a war game. This is quite competitive, it's quite intensive. You're looking at about 2 hours per game. When you're starting out, you're looking at more. Ask them what they already play. At that point, this is what it is. What do you play? Let me put that back in the context of what you play. If you play 40k, much lower model count, you're much more engaged. You're not going to sit there and throw buckets of dice. You're not going to wait to throw buckets of saves. You're going to be involved every time, every turn, every second. Why? Because of the ARO system. Start folding in the ideas and the basic concepts in that demo. But do not go deep, because it doesn't matter. It is incredibly easy, and the most common mistake that people have when they're giving a demo over an intro, and to an extent intro, is to go too deep. You know, when I'm giving a demo for Infinity, so if you know your Infinity, if you don't know Infinity, when you do a thing, when you do an action, you spend an order, it's called, you have a number of skills you can use, and there's like 30, maybe more. There's a lot. And then there's sub bits within that, different things you can do within each one of those skills. So if you're going to hack somebody, you can use different programs. And if you're going to shoot somebody, you can use different ammo and different weapons. And there's all kinds of different things that all fit together. Now, it doesn't matter for a demo. When I'm running a demo, we only have the skills of move, shoot, close combat, dodge, and idle, because those are the only ones you need to get the sensation of Infinity. There is nothing else that you need. Everything else is noise. All of the exceptions that come within that, all of the nuances that happen within different specific art, they don't matter. They simply don't matter to a demo. What matters is, here's an order, you do a thing, the thing goes pop, whee, repeat. So strip, when you're doing that demo, when you've got that 30 minutes, strip it back to its basic elements. Take yourself out of the equation and start showing people the core engine, the core way that this game plays. Have the board set up, have the miniatures deployed. They don't need to know about deployment. They don't need to know how that works. If they ask, tell them, but they probably won't. They just want to throw dice. So keep it simple, keep it clean, and have that patter down. This is what I tell you about at each step. So yeah, keep yourself out of it, keep it simple, stupid. These are really important things. The person you're demoing to is more important than you are, always, because you're there to get them to like the game, to find out if they do like the game. So how you think and feel about it is irrelevant. It's what they think and feel. Keep that in mind. Keep that in focus. So, within a game of Infinity, let's talk about that. Now, obviously, this is subject to change. We used to have Code 1. Code 1 is now dead. We're about to get Infinity Essentials. We don't know what that means. We don't know what N5 will look like. So this is how an N4 demo would run with me. The table would be set up. I would have printouts with most of the rules taken out. All profiles get one gun, which is their first and their big one, and one close combat weapon, which is their first and only one. There are no ammo types. There are no bits of equipment. There are most bits of equipment, most skills are gone. The exceptions to that is I keep mimetism in there and I keep MSV in there, because those are relatively easy things to grasp. This guy is good at hiding. He has -3 to hit. This guy is good at seeing people who are hidden. He ignores the -3 to hit. These are simple concepts. The reason we keep those in there is it adds a bit of flavour, it adds a bit of variety, and it also means that you can pit two armies against each other without stripping out too much so that they become imbalanced. My current demo armies are Tunguska versus Shazvasti. I have, I think, 7 miniatures per side. You don't need more than that for a demo. Anything more than that and it takes too long. And then we run through they're all deployed on the board. They have pictures next to the profile of the miniatures that are on the board so that you know who you're running. And then we run through, right, this is Infinity. This is what it is. Sci-fi skirmish level wargame. What do you play? This. Cool. This is what it's like. The game itself, very fluid, very interactive. So when you're having your turn, which is called the active phase, your opponent's having their reactive phase, and they can respond to anything that you do if they see it. So keep that one in mind. Just be careful when you're having your turn. We then run through a number of basic concepts for Infinity. I always say that Infinity is a game of controlled aggression. So you should be violent. You should do a violence to your opponent, but you should be prepared for the fact that violence will come back. And that just because violence comes back doesn't mean to say that you don't do your plan. Have a plan at the start of the turn, run it through to the end of the turn, complete the plan. If you have succeeded and the plan was good, perfect. If you have not succeeded, why didn't you? And if the plan was bad, why was it bad and how could it be better next time? Talk them through a basic idea. In the first game, it's always kill. I have never had objectives on there, there's no point. Because we have to explain it and how it works and and it's one more layer of complexity. Just shoot each other. Pew pew. Then we explain the way a order expenditure goes. Hold it up, stare, love it. There's people that are going to be getting flashbacks that are watching this, especially some of my most recent newbies. You take an order in your hand, you stare lovingly at your opponent, you say, I'm going to spend this order on this miniature. Are you seeing it? They see it. You see them seeing it. Then you tell them what your first short skill is going to be. Then you ask them for arrows. Then you tell them what your second short skill is going to be. Then you ask them for arrows. Then you roll dice. Then that's the end of the turn. Literally slightly more padded than that, but boom, 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 boom. This is the process over and over and over again. This is how you're going to play the game. Do you understand? Cool. This is a profile. This is your movement. So let's declare a move with this guy because he's going to come up the board and shoot this guy. Cool. It is walking people through. What you're looking for is the bit where they are throwing the dice themselves and figuring things out. That takes a bit of time. Like, okay, so I have my ballistic skill and I have checked my range and then I add this one, okay, and then they're in cover, so I take this one, okay. But you're looking for that point where they're doing those decisions and making those dice rolls themselves. It can be done in about 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the player, depending on the environment. You get them throwing dice, you get them having fun, enjoying the interaction, talking to you, talking to each other, listening to what they're saying, responding to the things that seem to be important to them. Give them that quick demo. With a demo, ideally, it's one person has an active phase, then the other person has an active phase. Was that cool? Did that make sense? Was that enjoyable? Outstanding. This is what happens next. This is the other bits you didn't get to see. And when I talk about the bits that they didn't get to see, it's, we have tags, big robots, big guns, amazing. We have guys that don't even appear on the board. They're called camo. You don't even know they're there. Or maybe they're a template. It's so cool. We also have werewolves and Scottish guys with kilts and big machine guns. You pick out all the things that are quite funky and quite cool, and then you ask them what they think. What did you think? What questions do you have? How was that for you? A lot of people, 50%, go, cheers, and wander off. And that's cool. No problems. Doesn't mean say you did a bad job. Doesn't mean say it went wrong. Just means maybe they're socially awkward. Maybe they didn't enjoy it. Maybe they have to go and catch up with their wife or whatever. Or maybe they lost horribly. That's the other one. But if they have questions, answer them. And then talk about what they can do next to get involved with the game. So at the moment, like as I say, I'm going to Crisis, we're demoing Infinity. I'm going to say to people, do you know what? There has never been a better time to get involved with Infinity. We are about to go to N5 in just over a month's time. That will be a whole new rule set, a whole new set of essentials, which is going to be a great way to get into the game. We don't know specifically what yet, but we know it's going to be a good way. Trust in the CB, love the CB. Bostria told me it must be true. There's never been a better time. Now what you can do is you can look at the miniatures that are out there, fall in love with them. We have a new player starter set coming. It's going to be great. You can buy that, split it with a friend, and you can both play. How cool is... Follow that up. And then say, and if you want to contact me and you want to get more demos, then you can do it via an email address, or you can take my number. I'm always happy to help and introduce people to the game. Close it off with the invitation. If they've engaged with you and they've had a conversation with you and it's been positive, finish the demo or the intro with, here's how you contact me to do this again, to move forward, and explain what that looks like. If they've had a demo, I would say to somebody, right, if you like it, next step is I give you an intro. That will be a bigger game. We'll go the full 3 turns. We'll do lots more orders and you'll have lots more control and all this kind of thing will happen. And they'll go, oh, that sounds so cool. And you go, yeah, it sounds so cool. That invitation to come to the next step is important. I normally say to them at that point, you know, it's 5 to 10 games to get people onboarded with Infinity to a way where they have a competency to play the game against pretty much anyone. That varies. You come across some players who are clicking with the system instantly. Cool, you're going to be 2 or 3 games. You get some other people where you think, this is going to take a while. And that's fine. There's a clicking point with Infinity where it makes sense. That's true with all war games. I certainly had it with Malifaux. There was a while where I was like, I don't get what. And then I was like, no, I get it. No, this makes sense now. So invite them to the next stage, give them a overview of what that's going to look like, and then just give them the method to contact you, see what happens. If they don't, or if they say they didn't like it, that's fine. That is fine. It's hard, especially if it happens at like 4 PM on the afternoon, you've been demoing since 9 AM, you have no voice, and then you're just packing up and this person wanted a demo and they hated it. Really? It was bad, was it? Oh, good. It's fine. It's not a reflection on you. It's not even a reflection on the system. It's a reflection on how they feel about the system, and it's okay for them not to like it. Not everyone will like every system. So, that's the recap. That's the overview. To recap. Demo. Keep it short, 30 minutes. Intro, full game, but very much cut down rules. Cut down rules in both cases. Doesn't matter the system, keep it simple. You want people to be engaged, you want people to have fun, you want people to enjoy it, because that is the objective. Of all the things you can be aiming to do, having fun, number 1. Doesn't matter whether they buy the system or anything else after that. What matters is, did you enjoy it? That's the first question. So keep it simple. Make sure they're having fun. Listen, see, interact with them, interact with what they want. And it's how you'll attract people into the game, because you can highlight to them what matters to them. Keep yourself out of it. It doesn't matter what you think. If you're asked, then say. But try not to leak too much of your views into it, because it's full of your bias and your own experience. That doesn't make it right. You know, I've got a new player at the moment. He wanted to play Tohar. I steered him away from Tohar. Why? Because he's a new player, and Tohar is your first faction. It's incredibly complicated. He had another option of faction. I suggested he went for that faction just to learn. I didn't say don't play Tohar. I mean, that was my instinct. Don't do it. What's wrong with you? Do you not like friends? Do you just don't like human interaction? What's wrong with you? But what I said was, not great for the first one, do it for the second. And he was like, cool, he's happy. He knows when it's happening. He knows why it's not a great idea. My personal bias isn't in there. People will ask you what they think of factions, what you think of specific factions, especially when you get to that intro game when you're playing the full thing. They'll say to you, you know, I want to play this, what do you think? If it's a particularly tough faction, again, referring back to Infinity, but again, this applies for all war games. Flames of War, Substitute, Soviets, things like that. If you know that faction is particularly tough, explain that and say why. They're a grown-up. They can make their decision. Don't make it personal bias, but be clear. So for Infinity, Invincible Army, Military Orders, those two factions, those two sectorials are lovely, beautiful miniatures, but they're in a tough place at the moment. They are hard to play average, let alone hard to play well. So if you want to use those, if you want to go into those factions, you are going to have a much steeper learning curve. It's going to be much tougher for you. And I would recommend that you do something else first and then do those when you've got a handle on the game and things are a little bit more forgiving. That's not a personal bias. That is, we can look at the statistics globally for the game and we can see that those two are struggling by comparison to other ones, by comparison to other factions and sectorials. Likewise, Flames of War, Soviets, when it comes to tournaments and things like that, they don't do so well. Why? There's all kinds of issues inside of that army. Does it make it a bad army? No. It makes it tough to play. And if you're a new player, that may not be the right route. It's not your job to tell people they can't play that. Just that they might be better served doing something else, doing a different faction. So I was recapping and went off on the rant separately and sideways. This is why I should script. It is. I know so many of you said how great it is that I script and it's off the cuff and it's all that sort of stuff. It's heart on sleeve stuff. And it is, but I waffle. And then we end up having this type of conversation. What's wrong with you? You've got nothing better to do, honestly. Right, anyway, back to it. So yeah, keep it simple. Keep it focused on them. Make sure they have a good time. If they're not having a good time, ask why. Talk constantly, look, listen. Yeah, and before you go in, if you can't do a practice game, ideally you do a practice game, but if you can't do a practice game beforehand, then do your damnedest to make sure that in your head you have the kind of process I just talked about. This is what Infinity is. This is an overview of the way the game works. It's controlled aggression. It is violent. It is bloody. It's normally objective-based, but today we're going to shoot each other in the face. So, how do we shoot each other in the face? With an order. An order has skills. The skills do this. This is a profile. Here's some dice. Let's chuck them at each other. Pop, 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 pop. Have that patter in your head. If you have that patter in your head, when a complete stranger is stood across from you and going, what's this then? Let me tell you, have you met Infinity? You can launch into that. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes, the cleaner and simpler and more straightforward it becomes, and then you can spend more time looking and listening to them. So it happens. You will get there. Having said that, demoing is hard, it's exhausting, it will cost you your voice, sometimes your sanity. I'd recommend having 2 demo armies that you can use, both for intros and demos. if somebody's coming for an intro and they have their own army, I tend to say, do you know what, for your first game, just use one of mine. The reason being, I can then control what's in the list and no one turns up with anything stupid and we don't end up with the situation of, but I've bought my cutter and I want to use mimetism -6 and hidden deployment. No, not on your first game. If you want to do that, no. It's just, there are very few things that I'll nope, but that's one of them. So saying to people, use one of my armies, cuts that out straight away. So have 2 demo armies. Be aware of the fact that they are going to get dropped. So they're going to get handled, they're going to get poured over and poked, and it sucks, and they're going to get damaged and chipped. So make sure that it's an army that isn't your main army. Don't put your studio quality, absolutely fantastic, best you've ever done miniatures on the table. Just don't. People won't mean to do it. It's just how it's going to happen. The law of averages. Something's going to get dropped, knocked off the table. Someone's going to come across the table, pick it up, look at it, go, okay, put it down on the edge, fall, donk. You have a great day now. So have that. Have a standard table that you want to run to. With the tables, make sure it's game appropriate. So with intros and with demos, I keep it flat. I don't put any height into it, no real stairs on there. Why? Because then it's a decision. Do I move upstairs or do I not move upstairs? No, move to the other side of the board and shoot him. That's it. That's what you're doing. That's the whole bit. Keep the table simple. And have that table, have those 2 forces. If you do that, your patter, your process of running a demo becomes easier, it becomes quicker, it becomes cleaner every time you do it. If you can find people to practice with, do. It's invaluable, especially if they know the game. That's really, really helpful to get them to stand on the other side of the table and you demo to them and they go, yeah, I wouldn't do it this way. Have answers for it, and bear in mind that any criticism isn't necessarily right. So I strip out a load of rules for Infinity and I've given demos to people who know the game before and they're like, well, I wouldn't do it that way, I'd include this rule. And I was like, I'd include camouflage. Cool. Then we've got to, in a 30 to 45 minute demo game, include states, so camouflage, discover, marker state. Ideally you need to do stealth as well. Surprise shot, need to get that in there too. Suddenly, just because camo is cool, it's like, well, I'm going to need them to sit down for the first 20 minutes of my 30 minutes and just have a lecture on the rules. No, shoot the other guy in the face. Perfect. The objective is to have fun. The objective is to enjoy it for them. Too many rules, too much confusion. Don't do it. So, yeah, if you can demo to another player, just keep in mind that their feedback only if it fits with your objectives that you have in your head for it, for the demo and intro that you're going to do, then take that back in. But yeah, I think that's kind of a brief overview of how I do it. Nick Brat 884, you are specifically with Infinity. I think what we'll probably do is when Essentials is out, and I've had my hands on it for a while, we'll do a how to demo Infinity N5 and how to demo Infinity N5 Essentials Edition. So you have both options, depending on which way you want to go. I think that's the route we'll go. But for the time being, if you are demoing it, enthusiasm, 2 ears, 2 eyes, 1 mouth. It should be fun. Keep it simple. Keep it short. I may put the army lists that I use currently for N4, the actual sheets that I use, up on Patreon, if that would be interesting. Put it in the comments below, and I'll put it up there on Patreon for free, so you can all download it and have a look at that. Because there's also some notes on a couple of the processes that you use. I've put on these cheat sheets over the years. Let me know if that'd be interesting. Aside from that, speaking of Patreon, thank you, patrons. You guys are awesome. As our channel members, you beautiful individuals. Joe Rogers, you're still a thing. What can I say? If you like what we're doing, you want to see more, especially with N5 coming up, I have a whole load of stuff that I want to do and a day job. The more support we get for the channel, the quicker I can get that stuff out, the more I can get to you guys. So it's very seriously, how much do you like what we're doing? If the answer is a lot, please consider becoming a member and supporting what we're doing, because then I can get more to you faster. Simple as that. Speaking of supporting the channel, please subscribe, like, share, give us a comment, tell me what other questions you have about demoing, tell me about your own personal demo nightmare experiences, what you hate, what you love, and I will see you next time. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.